Hi, and welcome to CSCMP's Member Mondays. I'm your host, Timothy Pajak, and I'm the Membership Engagement Manager here at CSCMP. Today, we're pleased to be joined by Phil Ramsdale, President of Transport Solutions, a Long Beach, California-based firm which works with large shippers to optimize their usage of freight service providers. Phil has been a member of CSCMP for 21 years and has been actively involved as a roundtable president for about 14 years. Naturally, if you look in the CSCMP membership directory, you'll find him near the top of the list of most engaged members based in California. And Phil is an active mentor for students and those beginning their supply chain careers. Phil, welcome.
Thank you, Tim. Happy to be with you today.
Phil, speaking of engagement, I want to start by mentioning that last year when you were featured in our Meet a Member program, you indicated that you first joined CSCMP as a way to increase your engagement with others in the industry. Tell us a little bit about how you got connected with CSCMP and perhaps what your experience was like serving as a roundtable president.
Okay, so my first impetus to get involved was because I knew this guy named Pete Crosby, and he told me, he goes, "Hey, we have our meetings in the like next door to you once a month," and so all these industry people were over there. So I actually just wandered over and thought I would just say hi, just kind of like it's you're right here, and these guys are driving from all over Southern California, and you're right here. Least I could do is say hello, since I knew a couple of them, and then I got sucked in. So it kind of worked out, and the meetings were convenient for me, so that was helpful. I got involved with them. There were various chairs that you work your way through. They're on different projects, and then the program chair is probably one of the most difficult. And so I went through that, and this was in the probably second most difficult period you could do it in. The first most difficult being what we just went through last year with the COVID era, so to speak, right? So it was in the Great Recession. And so we started doing a series of brown bag lunch type things, right? Where we would bring them in, and, people could come into a location, and, they could have turkey sandwich, they could have a vegetable sandwich or whatever, and a cookie, and so we'd give them content, and then they could be back at their desk. They didn't really want to be seen away from work, as, some sort of, what might be thought of recreational, right? It was a difficult period, and we adapted and found a way to keep things active and kept them engaged. So when I was president, which comes after that, as you rotate upward, it was also a difficult period. So, we started to organize things more into committees. And then we also, it used to be, well, there was some bad luck with people who had become president because they ended up changing jobs in the middle of their tenure. So it was difficult. And some of them kind of went into something that was not directly related. So with me, I broke the cycle because, I owned the company and I wasn't going anywhere. So, I kind of stayed with it. So I guess you could say that describes the beginning of my, when I was president. And really throughout, I've been the guy that has taken on the new and challenging roles. Like we had a sponsorship thing that came up when CSCMP for the first time allowed us to have sponsors. So I jumped into that, got that organized and off the ground and productive. And then, we had some new procedures as far as accounting. So treasurer job had to be completely redesigned. And, I set it up so that, we would run it professionally like a company, treat it like it was our own money, and still work with, with CSCMP corporate to get them the things they needed, and also ask them to provide a little bit more so we could do our job properly. So we put everything into QuickBooks Online and balanced everything to the penny, and worked our way through that. So that was a good way to contribute. And so now I'm a little bit more in a mentorship role because the young guns are out there and used to watch them like a hawk, and now I don't have to so much. Frankly, they do a great job and they don't make many mistakes, and the ones they make are not the end of the world anyway. But they'll check with me on things, and they have me MC an event here or there. So it's been a nice transition from that standpoint, and I'm a resource for them.
Absolutely. And I think you have some of the best advice for new members on how they can maximize their membership value. In your Meet a Member last year, you said, they'll get back what they put into their membership as a multiple. Can you tell us, a little more about what you mean by that?
Well, yeah, I mean, if you think you're just going to like attend a meeting here or a meeting there, you're not really getting the most out of your experience, because it becomes a function of the people you meet and the trust you build, amongst them, right? So you, as a particularly as a younger member, you're going to have opportunities to be a leader and put together teams and do things that you won't get the opportunity to do until maybe a little bit later in your regular professional career. So, you'll have to get people to do things without being their official boss, right? So you've got to use persuasion and charm and, logic and, build teamwork, camaraderie and that sort of thing. And those are tools in your day job as well. Just simply having the hammer isn't really how you get things to do things and do them well anyway. So it's a tremendous opportunity to learn about all the different ways to get things done, and to stretch a little bit, I think, and do some things, that you won't be asked to do in your day job for a couple of years. You'll already be a pro at it.
Your personal motto, to be part of the solution. How did you decide on this as a motto? And am I right to assume this has something to do with the name of your company, Transport Solutions, as well?
They are related, although I think the motto came about. I mean, I've had the company for 34 years, so I've always just sort of thought that it's about creating solutions for people before solutions was like a thing, right? Like everything is solutions now. It's like, okay, yeah, fine, we got a solution, but there's a solution is an actual positive outcome. And if being just simply part of the solution beats the alternative, you're going to meet people that I've had people work for me like this. It's like every time they get involved in something, that project kind of gets mucked up, right? It gets slowed down, it goes sideways. And people aren't trying to do that. They're sort of negative thinkers, right? Their whole job is to find out what's wrong, not to necessarily find out, okay, how can we turn a negative into a positive? How can we, eliminate the negative so that the positive flows through? And so I've just found that being part of the solution fits in really every aspect of my life. And so when I figured that out, I just put it into a slogan, so to speak, because it really is, it's who I am and it's how I think, and it's been useful.
Yeah, if you've been following our Member Monday series, which we started in May, and now I think we're approaching about 20 separate interviews that we've done this year. You'll know that I make a point to ask every guest about what technologies, trends, or disruptive forces they see having the biggest impact on supply chains. And not surprisingly, most guests mention AI and machine learning, blockchain, and of course the pandemic. But you answered this in your Meet a Member, and while you mentioned these things too, I especially appreciate that you took a unique perspective, which is that this influx of students with formal education in supply chain is going to have the biggest impact beyond anything else. And you pointed out that most of us got into the industry sort of accidentally, right? We survived through on-the-job training, and these leaders for tomorrow, they're going to push us further and faster. Can you expand on this point? What should employers be doing differently to adjust to this influx?
Right. Well, I think that as managers, our real job is to manage change, because change is the given. that's the one thing is going to be part of everybody's experience and every company's experience and needs. And so these technologies are great. They're tools, right? And so it's good to master them and understand how and where to use them. But the the university experience, or even there's some really great trade schools, and I'm actually started teaching at community college on a more of a workforce development type of thing, and those are extremely valuable because it gets people thinking about things strategically instead of just sort of coming into it, as you said, accidentally and reacting to the crisis of the moment, right? So these students that progress into lower mid-level management are pushing the envelope, and they have a better understanding of how to utilize the tools. So since we last spoke, certainly Zoom and Microsoft Teams and all Google Meet and all these different tools, that's become very important. And I see that people are doing a lot of that, so there's going to be more remote work than there was before, so that's going to change. But I think that the most important thing is still the young people coming into the industry with intentionally, not accidentally, and loaded for bear, ready to make a contribution.
Absolutely. Before we wrap up today, I want to make sure we touch on one other thing. Just tell us a little bit about what your firm does and what kind of pivots you've had to make as a company.
Sure. I worked on the provider side for about 10 years before switching over to being on the consulting side. And so we're helping large companies organize how they optimize their usage of transportation service providers. And so that's mostly in the form of bids or selection processes. We do some benchmarking. We do some mentoring of people that started off in one side of the company. Maybe they were in procurement, and now they're getting more specialized into transportation management. And so we'll help there. And we also do network analysis. We've had the good fortune to have our customers take us internationally, and we're not talking about just in and out of the U.S. So on the ground in Europe, within Asia, all of those type of things. So we're able to contribute to selection, network analysis, and some of those various we're actually pretty narrow in our specialty. We're not all things to all people. We have some affiliates that can help with compliance and help with the inside the four walls warehouse type of thing and technology selection. But we're pretty much sticking to our knitting, and there's still a place for it. Things are changing. One thing that we pioneered was putting together a group of companies that buy transportation services annually as a group with increased leverage. And so as people could imagine that there's a lot to that. It's more difficult right now because the market is pretty screwy. But I think we'll, kind of move into more active phases of that and resurface that strategy really probably within the next few months.
Thank you so much, Phil. That's all the time we have today. I appreciate your membership with CSCMP, and appreciate certainly all that you've done to advance the supply chain profession over your career. And thank you for joining us for this edition of Member Mondays. Hope to see you in Atlanta at the EDGE conference.
You will. I'm on the conference committee, so see you then and there.